Welcome back to another episode of the Many Faces of Cancer podcast. I am your host, Melissa Grosboll, and joining me today is Tony Williams. And Tony stands at the intersection of a deeply personal journey and public purpose. As the founder and CEO of the Olandus Foundation, he has transformed his battle with stage 4 lymphoma into a powerful mission that addresses the critical gaps in cancer care, particularly for those in underserved communities. His journey exemplifies how adversity can forge extraordinary leadership and advocacy. Tony embodies resilience through his passion for cycling, a metaphor for his approach to life's challenges. Full gas and full throttle, push through difficulties, and persist until you reach your goal. This philosophy underpins both his personal recovery journey and his professional advocacy work through initiatives like Healing Forward and Lunch and Learn. Tony's passion is about creating tangible change for communities that have historically lacked advocates at decision-making tables. His story continues to unfold not as a closed chapter of survival, but as an ongoing narrative of helping others write their own stories of hope and possibilities. The Olandus Foundation represents more than just a nonprofit organization. It's a platform that exemplifies voices often dismissed in healthcare conversations. So welcome to the show, Tony.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you on. This is going to be such a fun conversation. You and I talked before, and we are kind of on a similar journey and so much kind of parallels between our two journeys that I'm really excited to dig in.
You know, I believe people come into your timeline at whatever time they come into it for a reason. Some come in and they're just transient. They offer something and then they're out. And then some come in and be with you for the long haul. And I think you and I popped up in each other's timeline for such a time as this.
Absolutely.
And so immediately I felt the synergy and the connection, and I've been looking forward to this all week.
And hopefully it will turn into the long haul.
Yeah. Can't get rid of me now.
All right. So Tony, where do you hail from? Where are you in the world?
I live in North Carolina. Right now I live in Wake Forest, North Carolina, which is Raleigh for the most part, suburb of Raleigh. I grew up in North Carolina, small town, Lewisburg, North Carolina. And so that's where I'm from, and kind of stayed here in the state off and on. And that's where I am now.
Awesome. Any ever aspirations to go anywhere else? Or are you North Carolina through and through?
I've been other places. Like I spent a lot of time in Texas. I used to live in Georgetown, not far from Austin, for work. So I would fly there during the week and fly home on weekends and that kind of thing. If I could live anywhere, I kind of would like to go to San Diego or Phoenix. Those would be the two places that I would move to.
Yeah. You like the warm weather? I
like the warm weather, but I'm a winter guy too. I like the winter. I'm diverse. Like it all.
I say the older I get, the less I like the cold.
The less you like it. I can breathe better in the cold. You know, growing up in the South, there's all the allergies and the pollen and just the humidity. And sometimes you want to escape. So a lot of people here in North Carolina go to the mountains and get some crisp, clean air just so we can breathe and get out of that humidity.
There you go. I remember when I lived in Atlanta, there was a certain time of year that all of the cars were yellow.
Oh, yes.
All the pollen.
It is like that now. You can just see waves of pollen just floating in the air. But I really think that's an issue with climate, and nature doesn't know what to do. It's warmer than what it's accustomed to, and it stays pretty much warm all year. So they don't, it's throwing the plants and nature off. And so bugs and things like that, they don't hibernate anymore. They don't go away. They stay year round. And so I think that's why the pollen is so strong, right? Yeah.
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the things I love about fall is, at least here in Colorado, the bugs go away. We get cold enough that our bugs hibernate in the fall and the winter. So it's a lovely thing.
You guys might be getting ready to have snow right about now.
We actually today it's raining here all day today, and we're actually getting snow up in the mountains. So we will have our lovely peak, our snow packed peaked mountains probably by the end of the day today.
Haven't been to Colorado. My brother-in-law lives in Colorado. He lives in Denver. He left here to teach at one of the universities there, not which college he's at there, but never been there. So if I were to go to Colorado, what would you recommend?
Well, I mean, you definitely have to go see the mountains.
Yeah.
So just take a drive up through the mountains. Everything up there is just incredibly beautiful. Summertime, wintertime, depending on what you like. The fall is amazing. Right now we're hitting our peak leaf changing season. Granted, we don't have the beautiful purples and reds and oranges, that they have on the East Coast, but our aspens turn yellow, and taking a drive up through the mountains, it's just absolutely incredibly beautiful.
Well, sound like you in love with it. I don't know if you're gonna move after all.
I'm still a water girl at heart. Growing up on the East Coast, I miss the water every day. So
North Carolina's here waiting on you.
You may see me there eventually.
Come on home.
All right. Well, let's dig in, because your cancer story specifically is very interesting.
Yes.
And I want to kind of dive in, because your journey is a very rare cancer journey. So kind of take us back to when you were initially diagnosed and how that ended up changing into something different.
So yeah, back in 2021 late 2020s is when I realized something was kind of going on with my body. I've always been an athlete. Like you mentioned, I have a cycling club, Team Flow Cycling, and we have racing disciplines, and I've raced and did all these things. And so one day I was in the gym, and I heard a pop, thought it was my back because I'm lifting some pretty heavy weight. And I noticed like overnight my leg had swollen a little bit. Not unaccustomed for an athlete. We throw some ice on it, and you've been in the industry. You know how athletes are being a chiropractor. And so I went to my chiropractor.
Poor daughter, when she was growing up, every time something was wrong, just put some ice on it. You'll be fine.
Put some ice on it. So I did what athletes do. And it didn't get any better. So I called up my chiropractor, and, she started the adjustments. I mean, she's been working on me for many, many years. So she knows my body. And just after a period of maybe a month or so, it just wasn't getting better. And she said, Tony, something else is wrong. Maybe you have a hernia. Something else is going on. Maybe you need to see your internal specialist. And so I set up a meeting, met with my internal specialist, didn't have a hernia. She checked the things that she checked. She felt like I was fine. It was just a physical ailment that maybe from cycling or the gym. And she said, well, before you leave, she said, I wasn't going to do this. Let's just do an MRI just to check, see if we can see something. And she did. I came home, didn't have the results immediately. About 4 hours later, she called me, and she was just very jittery and nervous. And I'm like, what's wrong? I have these personal relationships with my doctors. What's going on? What's wrong? And she said, Tony, you need to go to the hospital immediately.
Oh my gosh.
I'm thinking like, what is going on? So what she saw in that scan just scared her. So I get to the hospital. She already called the hospital and prepped me. I'm getting in the hospital. So like you see on ER and the TV shows, they rushing me through the hospital and put me on the gurney thing. And so I'm going through the hospital. I noticed we're going up. And when they open the doors, I see radiation. I'm like, why am I going to radiation? I'm trying to process this, right?
But you didn't even know why.
I didn't even know why.
Up. Okay.
And so when I got up there, they was like, okay, we need to check him for tumors. We need to check this and that. And they was checking all these things. And then they looked at my Domlin number, and it was through the roof. And that's when the doctor there said something is really wrong with you. And they said, you need to see an oncologist like right away. So the next day, this is on a Saturday, right? That Friday, I probably had rode 70 miles on the bike, just ignoring everything, caution to just going for it. And then the next day I'm sitting here at the hospital. And then on that Monday, I'm sitting in an oncologist's office, not even knowing what is going on with me.
Man.
Right. And so they taking blood and doing all these things. And my oncologist come in, and he had that look, and I knew something was terribly wrong. He had the look, and he said, we think you have cancer, but we're running some more tests. So I'm still there. And it was so bad, Melissa, I started receiving treatment that same day just to slow it down. It was stage 4, all over my body, everywhere. It was in my lungs, in my spleen, in my spine,
Yeah, you
bottom
sent me a
bone,
photo and it was just all
blackness
lit up.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And so they gave me some things to help slow it down, and that started my cancer journey. Still not knowing even what it was. I didn't even get the diagnosis right then.
Oh my
That came
gosh.
after the fact. you know, so maybe a day or two later, I get the diagnosis, and it was stage 4 T histiocyte rich diffused B cell lymphoma, super rare. um, and we had to come up with an aggressive game plan. There was no treatment for it initially. So, you have EPOC, RCHOP, those type things. So they gave me RCHOP, which was one of the toughest protocols, frontline, just to see what would happen. We had to do something. And then, the FDA was kind of doing some things with CAR T, but CAR T isn't a holistic cancer type approach. It's for specific types of cancer. So at that time, the type of lymphoma that I had, cancer wasn't it wasn't we didn't have CAR T for it. And so
Okay.
as I was going through my chemo treatments, so I had to go through 6 months of that every 21 days. Um, by December, a couple months later, CAR T came online, and it was available for my type of treatment, but I still was going through chemo, so I couldn't have it. But it was refreshing to know that if all else failed, that was available to me. So
Okay.
went through the chemo. I felt good. I mean, typical. I mean, it was very hard, very arduous. And we took a month or two break, to let my body recover a little bit. And we had the conversation again that didn't work.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was devastating. And, there is, let me rewind a little bit. So I never asked myself, why was this happening to me? I embraced it with why not. I didn't even cry initially because there was no time for that. It was time to fight. And cancer, when you hear the word cancer, there's like 3 types of emotional responses that it evokes in you and others, right? First is just the word cancer, right? That brings up a certain emotion in you when somebody says they have cancer, or when you heard those words, you have cancer. The next one is what kind of cancer? Because people's emotions and even how you treat it can change once you know the type, once you identify, because with that comes the success rates and all these things. Like, you start feeling good, like, I can beat this.
Mhm.
And then the next thing is the category. What stage is it? And so imagine you sitting there, you think you're healthy, you hear the words that you have cancer, then you hear the type of cancer, which is rare, and then you hear stage 4. So most people would look at that as a death sentence. And
Yeah.
typically it is. Cancer comes to try to kill you. And so now you got to decide if you're going to fight. So I decided to fight right then. So even though all this was happening to me and I'm trying to, gain my composure, I did have a breakdown. I didn't talk to anyone. I felt that it was necessary to have surrogates in my life, because I said I'm not going to let people imprint on me and put their emotions on top of my emotions. So I cut a lot of family and friends out. So I used my sister as my surrogate. So she started calling and telling people. And at first they didn't believe it, like, this is a joke. No, but it's serious. And I remember in my neighborhood, we have a pond, and it's, fixed up like a park. We had benches and stuff out there. And I sat on that bench, and I remember calling my mom, and that was the first time I broke down crying. I told my mom, I don't want to die. And then now she's freaking out, like, what is wrong with you? What is happening? And then I told her, and I gathered myself, and I never cried again. That was it. And so fast forward back to the treatment, chemo didn't work. And so we were looking at other options, bone marrow. Some of the bispecific stuff was kind of coming up a little bit. Maybe another type of chemo. And so during that time, my doctor, I'm noticing he was happier, right? And he said, you know what, Tony, CAR T is available for you. But here's the thing, they didn't offer CAR T to everybody. At the time, it was new, and it was $1.5 million. That's how
Oh
much it
my
cost.
gosh.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, it was, yeah. And so I got it and did it. And CAR T was brutal. That was the first time in my life that I questioned if I could continue, right? And so when you have chemo, it is very difficult, but you're on a schedule. You know what to look for, and your body starts getting into a rhythm. So the first week I would be kind of all right. Week 2 and 3 I would be super sick, and week 4 I would kind of start bouncing back, and then I'm back in again, right? And so, but with CAR T, they have what we call chemo depletion, and just about the same amount of chemo that I got over the 6 months you get in 3 days. And
What?
yeah, because they have to kill everything in your body. So I don't know if you understand the process of CAR T, but they take your blood out so they can harvest your T cells and things, right? And they send it to a lab, and your cells get programmed to fight your particular cancer, and then they give all that back to you. And so
That explains why it's so expensive.
it's very expensive, very hard. And I remember my first day, I was so weak. You have to be within 10, 15 minutes of the hospital. So I had to move from Wake Forest to Chapel Hill, and I stayed in the SAQ house, which is a house for cancer patients, because I had to be literally that close to the hospital if anything went wrong at all times.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
you
For
know,
how long?
it depends on you.
Okay.
There's
How long
no,
were you there?
you wouldn't believe it if I told you.
Well,
I
I'm
was on. I
asking
was
you.
there seven. I was there 7 days. I mean, most people be
Okay.
there weeks. That's how quickly my body was like. Whoop. I had no side effects, none of that until later. So that's a part of this story. So checked into the SAQ house. First day, I mean, you can feel darkness come over you. Right, your body is really being taken to the brink, and you just are so. I believe at that point, if you wanted to go, you probably could if you wanted to. And so I remember the second day, CAR T patients go in through a secret entrance. So if the president or someone, dignitary, or even someone like Michael Jordan came back and he was really sick, there are back entrances to the hospital that most normal people don't even know about.
So you were getting
But
the VIP
you're getting
treatment.
the VIP treatment. Unfortunately, you don't want it to be that way.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm going through the back entrances because they want to isolate you around no people. Nobody would even know you're there. And there was a chapel on the floor, and I walked past that chapel and I went in, and that was the second time I cried. I said, I can't, Lord, I can't do it. This is too hard. I was so weak and just drawing on my strength. Something was like, you can do it. Get up, get out of here. And I dragged myself to the elevator and I set myself in the chair for day 2. And then I went on to day 3 and it was over. And so made it through that at the SAQ house, came out the SAQ house, got home. Typical symptoms of CAR T, if any, you have a fever of over anything normal, you have to check in because that could be deadly for you. And you could have potential for strokes and all these types of things. So I couldn't drive a car for maybe 5 months or so. You got to stay inside because your immune system is highly compromised and so weak. And so I was going through that and made it through all of that. Felt good, didn't have any of the symptoms, no fevers. And then a week later, my temperature 105, 106,
Ooh.
107. They had to immediately rush me to the hospital. My stuff came on later. So I spent about 2 weeks in the hospital. They tried to get the fever down, was trying to get it down. And finally, maybe 2 weeks later, it broke and they let me go home. But it is very, being a cancer patient, we go through a lot of stuff. You take your body and push your body to the brink. Made it through CAR T. I was excited because I finally had super soldier cells, which I called them. I would talk to them every night and said, execute the mission. And I thought they were doing just that, right? And so
Yep.
come back, nah, won't working. And I'm sitting here saying $1.5 million, super cell, fighter cells, and it's not working. And so at that point, I'm going into my lab mode because I double majored in college in pre med and engineering. So I thought I might want to go to medical school at some point. So I had a lot of sciences. So I started researching things that could try to heal me on the inside with my blood, right? I went through a heavy detox, and I'm not a physician, y'all, so don't be listening to what I'm saying. Just listen to what I'm saying. So I started heavily detoxing my body, focusing on those things that will help strengthen my immune system naturally, anything that I could do to help the process, because chemo was designed to kill everything, not to bring things back to life. So I needed to find things that could help spark my system again, and so, as you know, being a physician, the lymphatic system is one of the only systems that it really doesn't work well if you're not moving and
Yep.
being active. And so I would walk every day, and I think I shared with you the days that I was 2 weeks, I would walk 5 miles a day and do 30 minutes on my trainer. And my doctor thought like I was exhausting myself, but I was trying to live, because I was addressing the immune system needing to be stimulated. And when I couldn't walk those 5 miles, I got my boxer and I told her, let's go. And she was so excited to walk. She was just literally pulling me. So she had an assignment, and I'm like holding on. I'll send you some pictures of it. It's pretty cool. I'm just like leaning back and she pulling me. But she didn't know she was helping me out, And so I went through that. CAR T didn't work. We went through, and this is years, right? This is year 4 of this dance. And
Wow.
so this is probably year 2.5. And I
But
just
here's the
decided.
thing. So you were
Mhm,
diagnosed stage 4. And
mhm.
even though the things weren't working, here we are 2.5 years later, and you're still alive. So you're still fighting, and
Yes.
there's still something that's going to work. I mean, a lot of people would have been dead by now,
Oh yeah.
and God had bigger plans for you. And it's like, you're going to find it. Just keep going.
He did. I tried to not. I stayed off of Google when I talk at conferences and things. They say, "Well, what's one thing you would recommend?" I said, limit your information. Initially, you're going to want to inundate yourself with everything, but don't do that. Go in with a minimalist approach. Stay off of Google. Stay away from people reciting statistics to you, because they're not helping. I call that poison pellets. That's what they're
Yep.
interjecting through their words. And so, yeah, here I am beating the system, right? And I'll tell you something. My doctor, she knows now. But you have all these medicines, right, Melissa? I had got to the point like in year 2, 2.5, I stopped taking all my medicines. She didn't even
Ooh.
know. But if she did know, she didn't say anything. But I remember one day, she was like, "Oh, your blood looks amazing. This looks good. This looks good." And I'm saying, my lab is working. My concoctions are working. So when I told her what I was doing, she just started laughing. I love my doctor because she knows how I am, right? And she said, "Well, Tony, with you, there's clearly something divine going on." And she said, "We just pushing buttons. That's all we do with you." So I finally told her, I said, you never really asked me why you never saw a refill on my screen, because I wasn't taking it. And so now
Now,
she
we're
just.
not telling people not to take their medications.
Yeah, no, we're not saying that, you guys. I'm saying
Yeah.
this is Tony's journey. You do what's best for you. I believe that you do all that you can. Let the doctor be the doctor. And if whatever faith that you have, believe in that all the way. That's the
Absolutely.
recipe for success. And so these are the things that I did in between, because I felt like my body needed a break. And you do. You want to preserve. A lot of times people don't necessarily transition because of the chemo. Sometimes it's the impact that it has on your organs, your heart and your lungs and all these
Mhm.
things. And so
It's the after effects.
it's the after effects. And
Yeah.
so we made it through that. That didn't work. I was doing my own thing. 4 years later, I'm still doing my own thing. But here's the caveat. No remission. I don't believe in that word. I think remission is a crack in the door. It leaves an opportunity for stuff to come back. So my word is made whole, cure. When it's gone, it's never coming back. So I don't believe in the word remission. I'm just in a stasis right now.
Okay.
But there was my original source where all this stemmed from. And so we dropping a little tea on your show right now. We couldn't figure out why the original source was not impacted by CAR T, right? And the chemo. I mean, it did its job. It took it from stage 4 to wherever it is, but it's still cancer and it's still there. It's still the original source. And so where this lymph node was, super dangerous surgery. Over the 4 years, we have been putting it off. So we would do, I've probably had 14 to 16 biopsies. but they were topical. So we'll go in and do the extraction. It wasn't taking the lymph node. And so this particular lymph node, where it was located, original one under the pelvis, near the groin, just a lot of blood vessels. The surgeons was like, we can't, that's too risky. And so finally we found a really, really good surgeon, world-renowned guy, not gonna mention his name. And he said, I'll do it. And 4 years later, we had that surgery. Maybe I think I had it in March.
Okay.
And so we had a vascular surgeon in there in case something went crazy, but it didn't. And took the lymph node. You're not gonna believe this. Sent the lymph node to the lab. We're all anticipating, wondering, like, okay, this is the crucible. This is what we've been waiting for. This is going to give us the answers to why nothing we're doing working. And it did. And when it came back, do you not know, not only did I have Hodgkin's lymphoma, but there's another two types, Hodgkin and non-Hodgkin's. You know this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 4, in addition to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 4.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know that was possible.
I didn't either. And my doctor said, this is way less than 1% of people we ever seen this. And she said, what happened was, here's the thing, that there's a divine presence involved with my life, is the Hodgkin's lymphoma, nodular lymphocyte predominant Hodgkin, stage 4. It did something that most cancers don't do. To preserve itself in its state, cancer is smart. Like in college, I studied the AIDS virus and how the AIDS virus tricks your system into thinking it's one of it, the cell, and so the cells bypass it; they don't attack it. Cancer the same way. So when my CAR T cells was attacking it, the cancer was changing its proteins, right? But the CAR T cells were supposed to be able to change with it, so it couldn't ever trick it. It would always know it was cancer. We thought the CAR T cells lost its sequence. It didn't. The chemo worked and the CAR T worked. The CAR T appeared not to work because it wasn't ever programmed to fight Hodgkin's lymphoma. Right? And
it was working on the non-Hodgkin's.
It was working on the non-Hodgkin's like it was supposed to. But every time we looking at it, we are looking at the Hodgkin's lymphoma and saying, what is this? This is not working. And so it turned out to be a stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. It recruited T cells and it recruited B cells as if it was just like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Oh my gosh.
It masked itself. And it was showing 96% being a stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, but underneath it was hiding under the blanket saying, ha ha, I tricked you. That's what it did. And so the chemo and the CAR T stripped all of that mask away and made it exposed. But because of the treatments and the things that we thought, we were still trying to attack it from a non-Hodgkin standpoint, and it won't that. And so the great thing is now it's exposed and we know what we're dealing with. So we're dealing with a little booger that's a Hodgkin's lymphoma stage 4.
Oh my gosh.
Ain't that amazing scientifically? That it knew to do that, and it made itself completely... It went up to the spectrum and said, we're going to become this. And that's what I was fighting the whole time. 2 stage 4s at the same time.
It's amazing. And as much as cancer sucks, in a way, you just have to kind of admire its stick-to-itiveness and ability to mutate and change and hide and all the things to stay alive. It's quite fascinating in a horrible kind of way.
Mm-hmm, it is. So we're not gonna. I told my doctor, look, I'm not doing anything else. I said because what I'm doing in conjunction with what we're doing clearly offset it. Right?
It's working.
It's not doing anything. It's just there. It's not moving. It's not growing. So we're gonna do a wait and see. It's like that dance partner that you don't want to have and you can't get rid of them. Right? People say in the club, like when they call out, what do they say? Last song or whatever they say, right? And you dancing with somebody. And the light's about to pop on and that guy or girl don't want to let you go. That's cancer. Yeah. It don't want to let you
I
go.
love that analogy. That's awesome.
But the light's on. You gotta let me go. You know.
There
And
you
so
go.
the
I love it.
lights are on this little booger, and I'm letting her go. You know. And
Yeah.
so that's where we are now. I'm not taking anything. I mean, not in any treatment. I started back riding my bike. I'm training with my race team again. Actually rode with them yesterday. I'm back in the gym. And I'm just going to attack it the same way I have been and just continue to believe and have faith that I'm already made whole. And so that's kind of where we are. I'm not even discussing any other treatments. You know, I go
That's
back to the
beautiful.
hospital in October, and we're going to see what we see when we get to October.
All right. Well, definitely fingers crossed.
Yes, ma'am. Amen to that.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Olandus Foundation. How did that come about? And tell us a little bit about what it does. Well, I read a little bit in your bio, but give us a little bit more information about that.
Well, there's a story for that too. I think things work out for a reason. So my mom was a big Tony, Orlando, and Don fan. Remember them?
Yep, I do.
Right. She actually named me after him.
Aw.
So my name is Tony Orlando. But my grandma, for some reason, wouldn't ever say Orlando. She would call me Olandus. And so when I was a baby. And so that stuck. So everybody that knows me calls me Olandus. And so, and she didn't know what it mean. I thought she made it up. And all these years, I never even tried to figure out what it was. And so I sat there and I Googled it. I said, I want to see what Olandus really mean. And I think she was prophetically speaking throughout them years. And it meant a name that's heard beyond the land, had a very significant meaning. And I thought it was something she made up. But she was literally prophesying over me when I was a child and changed my name to that. And I didn't know it was going to be needed for a time like this. And so, yeah, I always felt like cancer is bigger than us. Anytime you go through this and people like me and you who are thriving from this, it is not by happenstance. It is not just for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your podcast isn't for you. It's for people like me. And my podcast isn't for me. It's for people like you.
Absolutely.
And so, and when you support and give back to humanity, our pouring out is showing our thankfulness for our life. And so I started the Olandus Foundation, number one, to share stories, and number two, reach people where they are, because there's so many people that aren't like Tony and Melissa. You know, we have the resources, and I don't mean monetarily all the time, but just the wherewithal to know how to maneuver when you encounter something like this.
Right.
Or we have people in our life that can help us with this. There's so many that don't know. You know, they're in a small town where they with the primary care physician. God bless them. And that's all they know. And sometimes those physicians, like I work with a lot of those rural physicians too, because sometimes that's all they know. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's nothing wrong with seeking a second opinion or going to someone that may know a little bit about you. That's not indifference toward you, but that's just saying I need more information. And so these people a lot of times are economically depressed. They can't take off of work. They might get fired, right? They can't participate in clinical trials. They can't get there, or they might get fired. And so a lot of these people internally deal with their cancers on their own, which is not good.
No.
Number one, they don't know what to do. And so they're not doing anything. And they accept it as if this is my lot in life, but it isn't. And, you know, I grew up in the rural South, in old school ways, and very, very high in faith. But there was also this misconception and ideologies about medicine and phobias about medicine because of the Tuskegee experiment and Henrietta Lacks and all these things that in our communities that make a lot of mistrust. And so when I was getting chemo, I had some people like, you don't need to do that chemo. That's going to kill you, or they're going to use you as a guinea pig, that kind of thing. And I think all communities have that type of feeling in some sort.
And I think COVID kind of just exacerbated a lot of that mistrust as well.
That to the front. Yes, it did. And so the Olandus Foundation is about bringing voice to those that need a voice, providing resources, education. I'm doing a program October 4th. It's called Lunch and Learn. And it's a time where A good friend of mine who's an oncologist fellow at Duke University is going to be the physician there, right? And so when you're in a hospital setting, it's very quick. You got to digest a lot of information quickly without the emotions. And whether you have emotions or not, they're still going to give it to you. And so, my thing with the lunch and learning particularly is to be in an environment, a relaxed environment, where you get to ask that physician questions that you wouldn't be able to ask him in a professional setting, and he'd be able to spend that much time with you. And so people can come and ask questions about all types of cancer, but other modalities that may lead up to cancer. And so we're going to break bread and we're going to eat, and it's going to be a comfortable environment, and you get to talk to that doctor in a way and share things that you may not would have even shared with him in a tight environment. So that's part of the Lunch and Learn program. And so that's what the Olandus Foundation is about: spreading hope, using examples. When you come on my show, right? And so love to have you. And we can talk about, and people can see that there's real people out here just like me. And there's people out here that can share testimonies that you can overcome this nasty disease.
Absolutely.
It starts here, right? And when you don't have it here, you're already losing the battle.
Yeah.
You cannot accept cancer. You have to reject it. Every day of your life, you have to reject it. Because when you give it space, it will take all of your space. And so that's what I encourage people to do. So that was the premise of me founding the Olandus Foundation. I want to tie faith. A lot of people rely on their faith, whatever that is. Church is central in the South. That's where people gather. That's a lot of times they get their information from there, right? It's a staple in the community. So you need to get those leaders involved too, so people can see that, God created all people from all disciplines. And if you have faith, you can believe in that person he created. That's a doctor, that they're going to do the right thing by you, right? That this medicine that they created is going to help you. So it's nothing against the medical society, but combine your faith holistically, that it applies in all these areas too. And some people don't believe that. It's either a divine belief or none. Yeah. But I think sometimes that can lead you to other places too. And so we talk about that and all those type of things.
Well, there's so much, separation of church and state and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so many people look that church or religion or spirituality or whatever has its own little box, and it doesn't belong anywhere else. And I personally believe that faith belongs everywhere, because it is really a foundation for everything else if you believe, no matter what you believe.
Yeah, the basis of most countries in the world was started on some kind of faith principle.
Yep.
Every one of them. So you can't deny that faith drove a lot of our culture. Yep. It drove a lot of countries' decisions. It's undeniable the impact and how it is woven into society. So for some people to try to separate that, they just blind. They just not paying attention to what's going on. Because everything is
we need to believe in some kind of higher power, whether that's the universe, whether it's God, whether it's Allah, whatever. Just having something outside of us to have faith in or believe in, personally, I think is very, very, very important.
Well, when you look at the definition of faith and you look at it from a biblical standpoint, what does it say? It says faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Mm-hmm. That doesn't have to be biblical. That could be natural too. And so
I always think when I hear faith, do you remember Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where he's, having to go through all the trials, and the one is of faith, and just like taking that step that you can't see, and then the bridge appears. And it's like, that is just the perfect essence of faith, is taking that step, not knowing what you're going to find.
Look, cancer changed our lives, right, Melissa? Mm-hmm. So when we go get checked and we go to the hospital, there's a process that we go through. We gear ourselves up for it mentally. We are prepared for the unknown. So we have to have faith that when I get this checkup or when I go get this test, it's going to favor me. It's going to give me the result that I was looking for. Cancer puts you in that space. It elevates our faith, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We need it to continue to keep going and to keep fighting.
You have to have it.
Right.
Yeah. At my lowest point, I remember my son was he wasn't that emotional. I think he was internalizing a lot of things. And I remember he came to my bed and he was crying and he said, "Daddy, you can't leave me. You can't go."
Mm-hmm.
And I was super sick. I had lost my hair. And it's these little things that happen in your life that boost your faith. Now here I was super weak. I had lost a lot of weight. I was down to maybe 150 pounds, and I'm like 225.
Oh my gosh!
It's the bodybuilding and all that kind of stuff. And he said, "You can't go." And in my weakness, I found more strength and more faith. So faith is key. Yeah,
absolutely. I love that. So now, Tony, I asked this of all of my guests. So if you came across someone who was just diagnosed with cancer or in a state of overwhelm and they just don't really know where to turn, what is one piece of advice that you would give to that person as they're kind of starting on this journey?
I would say take a pause, take a deep breath, and reflect on all the good things that have happened to you in your life up until you heard that diagnosis. Because those are the things that you're going to draw on to give you strength. So if you have children, and we know when you have a child, they become your main focus, everything centers around them. Then think about that. Think about their birth. Think about them getting married or graduating from college or high school. If you have parents, think about the good times that you had with your parents or the times that you had with your friends, because when you're at your weakest point, those are the memories that you're going to draw from, because you're going to say, I don't want to leave these people. My life matters to these people. And when you're weak yourself, those things will get you over until you get to the place that you are strong. You don't come out in a position of strength. No, I believe you're a strong woman and you probably think I'm a strong man, but we didn't start there and we still so fragile. It's a thin line that tomorrow we could jump on the other side and be like, man, I hate life. You know what I mean? So, but that's that fine line, so that strength is always gained for someone hearing the words, you have cancer. It will shock you. It's going to change your life, but take a minute and don't let the emotional side that your life is over, because there's statistics that will tell you that, or the 3 things we talked about: hearing cancer, type of cancer, stage of cancer. All those negatives are going to come to the front as if they have dominance in your life, but they don't. You're still in control. And so control your narrative. Block out that stuff and control the narrative. Make the main thing the main thing. The main thing is defeating cancer. But don't give cancer power in your life. That's what I would tell you.
Oh, I love that. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Tony. This was such a great conversation, and I'm so happy for you being no evidence of disease or cured or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. It's a miracle, and it's God's work at hand, and or hand at work. That's the way.
Look, if you can explain it, it wouldn't be a miracle, right? So
exactly.
That is why it is.
Exactly. All right. Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time today, and I know people are just going to get so much out of this conversation. So thank you again so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you.